What's up, Aztec fans? In this video, I wanted to point out some things that I noticed in the first half of the game against Nevada to end the season. The video ended up turning out way longer than I wanted it to, and that was after I cut out about half the clips that I wanted to put in there. So some of them will reference previous clips that ended up not showing up in the video. So if you're confused about that, don't worry about it. But I'm still very excited to be able to show this. Saw a lot of good things, even in the first half, so let's get to it. This is a great read offensively by Matt Mitchell, and I can't confirm for sure whether he saw live everything I'm about to point out, but it was the right decision, and it was a great one. So here we go. KJ, he gets hedged on the screen. He's not going to hit the step back like Malachi, so he's going to reverse the ball, okay? Yanni, in a second, he's going to be covered. This guy, I can't remember his name, Zuza or whatever. He's going to be covering Yanni in what's called three-quarter top coverage, which means he's trying to be three-quarters behind him, not all the way behind him, but he's going to be on the top of Yanni, so he's going to be on the side furthest away from the basket, right? So the ball gets reversed. That's where Zuza is. Right, he's up top towards the key. Now, Matt Mitchell could have possibly tried to bounce it in, but the reason you're in three-quarter top is so that way Zuza can extend his arm out here to get in the passing lane. The other thing that's key is Robinson closes out with his hips angled towards the baseline. A lot of the times, Aztec players want to drive the ball middle because it's easier to pass out of it. But in this case, Matt Mitchell's being forced baseline, but because Zuza's playing three-quarter top, it gives Matt Mitchell a wide open lane for the dunk. Yanni's able to kind of screen out Zuza just by standing there. This clip here is pretty much how you draw up the defense, and it's in the first half against Nevada, and I know the first half wasn't the best defense overall, but there were definitely some glimpses of some good defense. So Jalen Harris is over here. He's who we're going to keep our eyes on. Okay, so there Jalen Harris gets the ball. That's what we're looking for. Now, this guy, I think this isn't Zuza anymore. I don't know who this is. Number 12 on Nevada comes up to set the screen, okay? KJ is going to fight over it. He even does a good job of turning his hips. It's hard to see here because of the body's in the way, but when you fight over a screen, you want to turn your hips like that. You don't want to slide over it. Yanni comes up and gets in the way, forcing Harris to pick up the dribble. But in the process, this pocket is open here, and Harris is going to hit the big man. Luckily, Shackle has already pre-rotated down to Robinson to help cover him, which frees up Matt Mitchell to step up and contest this guy's shot, number 12. And he gets the block as well. That is how you draw up the defense right there. I don't think it could have really been done any better. In this clip, I want to point out some offensive miscommunication. So this is the standard, wheel motion that the Aztecs do. Ball reversal, Mitchell gets it out here in the corner, right? This is similar to that play earlier where Mitchell got the dunk driving baseline, but you can see they aren't doing three-quarter high anymore or three-quarter top, and Robinson is still closing out towards the baseline, but not quite as much, or his hips are angled towards the baseline, but not quite as much. Now Mitchell gets it into Yanni. Now that's a good thing. Mitchell's going to cut into the lane, right? And overall, this is fine. What Nevada does, you see Robinson here comes and doubles off the cutter. Okay, it's a, I don't know if I'd say it's advanced defense, but it's good defense because Yanni is expecting Robinson to follow Mitchell out, right? And then Robinson comes and doubles off the dribble. So now Yanni's in trouble. He needs to pass out. Okay, here's where the miscommunication is, because all this so far has been fine. Okay, Mitchell sees Robinson double off the cutter. So Mitchell does a pretty high IQ thing here. He knows Shackle is back here in this corner, so he comes in, he screens Shackle's man. And you can see him right there. Look, he's calling to Yanni, hey, Shackle's wide open behind me for a corner three, so you need to pass it. The problem is Shackle thought Mitchell was going to cut all the way through to the corner, so Shackle elevated, he lifted up to the free throw line, extended up to the wing here. So that's where the miscommunication was. Had Shackle stayed back there, that would have been a wide open 3. Mitchell's calling for a pass that can't happen. Yanni could probably pass it to Shackle all the way out here, but that's, Jazz Johnson can come out and cover that really easily. KJ tries to do that, but at that point, the screen Mitchell was setting wasn't there anymore. And Harris is able to jump the lane, and now it's just broken offense, ends up in transition. This was one of the turnovers that led to the game being like a 13-point deficit at the half or whatever it was. So here's another defensive possession. Mitchell is going to get cross-screened right here by this guy, whose name I also don't know, and it's going to give up a wide open 3 for number 15 here. Mitchell just kind of runs into the screen. So he needs to do a little bit better job about going around it, especially because that could be a foul as well. If you just run into the screen and bowl a guy over, you're going to draw a foul, and Mitchell's foul prone enough as it is. So that's not great in and of itself. And then the other thing, notice as Mitchell arrives to his guy, his hands are down. Like this guy's shot is about to go up, and Mitchell's hands aren't quite up yet. And so you'd like to see Mitchell come off the screen with higher hands. It's a fundamental thing. It might not have affected this particular shot all that much because he had already been hit by the screen, but it's something that you want to see every time, really. Okay, this is very high IQ basketball here that we're about to see from both Malachi Flynn and Yanni Wetzell. So, Yanni comes up, gets the handoff to Malachi. Now notice what Lindsey Drew does. He goes under the screen there. Okay. Now, when somebody goes under the screen, one thing a lot of players like to do is just have the screener flip his hips and keep screening until you make this player go over the screen, because you'll just kind of inch the ball closer and closer every time they go under until eventually you get a good screen and you can go over, and now you have basically an isolation between a guard and a slow-footed big man, hopefully. Here they set the screen again. Lindsey Drew goes over the screen this time, so Malachi has him behind him. He knows he can do that, and this guy, who's, once again, name I don't remember, he's out here pretty high. Malachi's going to hit him with a little hesitation move and then blow by him for the layup. You like to see that as opposed to him trying to step back and hit a 3. I really like, if he knows he has the matchup, him going and beating the big man. This is another thing I've been talking about recently in my pods, is that one of the reasons I have Seiko needing more playing time is because he can be allowed to do what he does when he's on the floor with Malachi and KJ, and Trey Pulliam hasn't been given that green light lately, but here he is, right? Trey Pulliam is here to be another creator in the pick and roll, and here it comes, right? So he's in the pick and roll. Now they're hedging out. This isn't a hard hedge. This is more of like a soft hedge, or maybe a show and recover even. But, they come out, they show Trey Pulliam isn't as great at handling this type of pressure as, say, Malachi or KJ are. But he doesn't lose his cool, which is great. KJ comes out. KJ and Seiko are switching spots, essentially. These guys are dropping to cover a rope. KJ comes out, gets a wide open 3 from the top of the key. It's a very simple read for Trey to make, but I love that he was put in the position where he could make it, because it opens up guys like KJ and Malachi to do things like they just did. So KJ shoots an air ball. Adam Seiko compounds the mistake by saving it out of bounds and getting it directly to a Nevada player. Now this one isn't as bad. I think Trey Pulliam did this a game or two ago and saved it under his own basket, which you don't do. You appreciate the effort from Seiko, but the problem with this is now Nevada's in transition, right? Which is just when the offense is most efficient. Everybody, they're scrambling, they're trying to do what they're doing. They've matched up okay here, but they're still not set, right? Now, the issue comes, Malachi is going to try and wall off the drive of Lindsey Drew, but he overcommits, and Drew's able to just spin around it. And Malachi, his last-ditch effort is to try and reach his hand in to get the steal, but it doesn't work. And then Lindsey Drew is like 6'4", 6'5". He can finish over a guy like Yanni, right? He's a good guard. We've forgotten about him, I think, largely in San Diego State, but he almost had a triple-double against the Aztecs a couple of years ago. So he's a good player. And just the defense, not being able to get set led to that play, right? So that's another turnover. At this point, that's like the 6th or 7th turnover in the game, and we're, 13 minutes in, something like that. So it's not looking good. This, to me, was the issue more so than defense. Here, once again, we're going to see Malachi Flynn doing Player of the Year type things. Now, let's actually back this up because I want to show something specific that I really liked about this specific play. So Yanni comes up, sets the screen. This time they aren't hedging that hard. Look, they're dropping back, right? Because they're more worried about the drive at this point than they are the step back, right? Now Yanni's rolling. Malachi does that step back anyways, right? He's not going to shoot it, but he does the step back because that gets Lindsey Drew up in the air. And now the big man who was guarding Yanni is still kind of showing towards Malachi. Lindsey Drew is in the air, and Malachi's able to blow by him. And in the meantime, as Malachi's blowing by him, this guy's still trying to recover to Yanni and doesn't realize that his guard has been blown by, right? So it's too late. Malachi gets the bucket. This, to me, might be the worst defensive play I've seen so far. And live, I didn't see what happened. I think I was looking up at Lindsey Drew, so I didn't see what exactly had happened. Nevada's going to run a floppy play here, which is something the Aztecs run all the time. So they're going to run both their guards down here by the baseline, and then they're each going to come off of pin down screens, basically, to try and get an open three at one of the wings. Okay, so there they go. Now Yanni, what he's doing here, this is Yanni's guy, right, number 12. Yanni's going to show his hand to try and deter a pass to Jazz Johnson, right? So the point being that way Jazz Johnson doesn't get a wide open three, right? Jazz Johnson may or may not have had one. KJ is a step behind. But the problem is Yanni's now way out here, and his dude is down here at the block, wide open. Now, I'm not sure what the specific issue is, because to know that you pretty much have to be in the coaching room to know what the coaches are asking for. Okay, now if Yanni is supposed to do this, then fine. That doesn't seem very likely. Maybe he's supposed to do it but recover a lot faster, and he doesn't. The Aztecs were switching a lot of things 1 through 5 earlier in the game. And so maybe Yanni thought it was a switch, but I don't think so because he hasn't fully committed. So basically, this would be a complaint about Yanni on this play that I would say would be warranted. I defended him a clip or two ago, but in this one, this is all Yanni's fault to me. He needs to, at the very least, recover sooner, or at most, just not even really do that show at all. It just depends on what the coaches are asking for, but at the very least, he needs to recover sooner because this guy just gets wide open dunk because Yanni left him wide open, right? That was a defensive miscue. And as we can see, Nevada's only up by 3, but at the half they were up by 10 or 13 or something. So they're about to go on a run, and it's because of stuff like that. This play doesn't look too good either. And man, I was just defending Yanni a minute ago, but he's not making me look good for this past minute or so here. So Malachi's doing Malachi things, right? He draws the second defender. He gets the pocket pass, which is excellent. There's just there's a lane there. He passes it around this guy, which is beautiful. Okay, Jazz Johnson comes down and gets his hand in there. Okay, now Jazz Johnson is 5 foot 10 inches tall, and Yanni's measured at 6 feet 10 inches tall. So really, Yanni needs to find a way to just muscle this ball up and over, and he doesn't do it, right? He can't get it up. He loses the ball. That's another live ball turnover. Yanni thinks he was fouled. He may have been, but even despite that, he needs to find a way to muscle the ball over, because then you get 2 shots or you get an and 1 opportunity, whatever the case may be. And instead, turns into a live ball turnover, which, like I said, was the biggest problem of this first half. Okay, this to me is another example of some bad defense, and it's kind of subtle, but let's look at what happens. So Jalen Harris right here comes off the screen. Adam Seiko gets blown up by it. It's not the end of the world. A rope comes out to help, right? Because Seiko got hit so hard by the screen. Okay, now that is fine. I'm okay with that. Seiko's trying to recover. A rope's trying to help out. Now this is a rope's guy down here. Okay, now normally you're okay with it because somebody's in help. The problem is Malachi Flynn isn't really in help. He's not guarding Jazz Johnson super tight, but Malachi's feet need to be at least having a foot on the block or in the paint, right? At least. So that's, I mean, I don't know how far that is, 3 feet over. He should be 3 feet closer, essentially, right? And so he's out of position right now. Now, that mistake, if a rope was still back here, it's not as big of a deal, right? But a rope had to come out because of the screen. So it compounds the mistake. Seiko got blown up by the screen was a mistake, right? I mean, it's also good play design, but it was a defensive mistake, and that mistake is getting compounded because Malachi Flynn isn't in proper help position. Because of that, Jalen Harris is able to get this pass in, and Malachi Flynn recovered really well, right? He has both feet in the paint now, but had he been closer, he could have his body in this guy already, as opposed to just standing where he is. And it just let him get a shot up too easily, right? It let him recover off of his catch and get a shot up, and it just wasn't great. So it was a very subtle thing that helped defense, but it was a mistake for sure. This will be a long clip. I wanted to point out a couple things. There's a couple things that are shown here. One, it shows that why I like the double stagger screen in general, coming off of the weak side. And it also shows why I like to have Trey Pulliam initiate the offense. Okay. Now, he's not going to run a pick and roll here, but he's still initiating the offense. He comes up. He's the one who passes to a rope. A rope's going to get it over to the weak side, over here to Seiko. In the meantime, Malachi Flynn is over in the corner the whole time. Now, that's important because normally these two spots would be switched, right? Trey would be in the corner, Malachi would be up here. This is why it's important. A rope swings it over to the weak side. Here comes the double stagger. Or I guess this is a strong side now. Here comes the double stagger on what is now the weak side, right? Malachi Flynn is going to be able to come off of this screen and take a shot. Trey Pulliam wouldn't take a shot off of this screen, right? Now, it works perfectly. Here's Lindsey Drew. He got hit by the first screen. He's about to get hit by the second screen, right? Malachi Flynn's going to have a wide open look at 3 to be probably the last shot of the half. And in the meantime, Robinson came out and fouled Flynn, right? I wanted to say obliterated. He wasn't obliterated, but it was a clear foul, right? So I like the double screen because it can get some pretty good looks, and that's why I like Trey Pulliam initiating the offense just every once in a while, because it lets Malachi Flynn do stuff like that. He wouldn't be able to do that if he walked up with the ball. So Malachi Flynn draws the foul. He gets 3 foul shots. We're going to skip through it here. Now, last play of the possession. Seiko's playing pretty good ball denial. Lost his, focus for just a half second, but that's fine. Harris was going to end up with the ball one way or the other. Might as well just give it to him now. Now let's look at the defense. Seiko's playing well. Didn't fall. Harris tried to hit that little hesitation to try and get Seiko up in the air, the way Malachi did with, I believe it was Lindsey Drew earlier. But Seiko didn't fall for it, so good on him. Seiko's there, gets a body into him, cuts off the drive completely, right? So that's good. Harris has picked up his dribble now, which means he has to either pass it or shoot it. Regardless of what it is, you like it because you don't want him taking the last shot. And so if he passes it, you live with it. And if he shoots it, that's a tough shot. So you live with it either way. Now, Harris is a bad man, and he does hit the shot, but I don't think there's much more Seiko could have done on Harris to make that shot that much tougher. So overall, I thought Seiko played well on Harris in that instance, and overall for the entire first half, whenever Seiko was on him, Harris looked a little bit flustered. It's hard to remember that, especially looking at the box score, because Harris got a lot in that first half, but Seiko did a fantastic job. That does it for this one, Aztec fans. Thank you so much for watching and being patient with me while I figure out my new software for making videos and all that stuff. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, find me on Patreon, find my podcast. You can find it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, most anywhere. That's it. Let's go do some damage in the Mountain West tournament and in the big dance after that.